Hello, Misfit entrepreneurs. This is Dave Lucas, and welcome to another episode of the Misfit Entrepreneur Word. It's our job to help you unleash your inner misfit and break through to higher levels of success, wealth, and fulfillment by bringing you the best insight and information from the world's top entrepreneurs with a specific focus on their misfit side, the specific traits, habits, and secrets that have allowed them to thrive and succeed. As a reminder, if you're new to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button below. Give this video a like and comment as well. We do our best to respond to all comments as timely as possible. This week's Misfit Entrepreneur is Fred Cary. Fred is a Swiss Army knife of entrepreneurship. He's an internationally known entrepreneur, business thought leader, strategic consultant, attorney, and investment banker focused on building global companies from startup stage through exit and IPO and M&A. He's the CEO of Idea Pros, where he's overseen the development of over 250 startups in everything from finance to software, mobile technology to retail and more. At Idea Pros, Fred has created a unique model where they actually help fund and guide the growth of a business and then take a minority stake in them. I'm really excited to talk with him about this model, but also his experience as an entrepreneur and how to succeed in your business. So, Fred, are you ready to unleash your inner misfit?
I am so ready to do this with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, based on your career, you've been unleashing your inner misfit for a long time, and I'm excited to have you on. And it sounds like it's been quite a journey for you. So this is probably a hard thing to do, but take 5 minutes or so and just tell us, how did you get to where you're at?
But decades of mistakes, basically, same as the rest of successful, fleeting word, but successful entrepreneurs. I started company after company, 10 of them in total, and had several very good exits, very large exits. And I think the reality here with any entrepreneur is just having that perseverance to never give up. Just keep on that journey and know that somewhere around that next hill, the next corner, success is waiting for you.
Yeah, I think we talk about this a lot. I mean, this whole journey of entrepreneurship, it's a series of peaks and valleys, and you spend a lot more time in the valleys than you do the peaks, but the peaks are just so sweet when you're at them. And, it kind of makes me, I guess it's my first question. And it's kind of a big one. I think we can have some offshoots from it because you've worked with over, 250 plus businesses. You probably turned down twice as many over the years to work with. So what in your eyes makes a great business and compels you to invest in it? Like, what are the criteria that a great business has for you?
Well, it's 100,000 that we've turned down. We've had 100,000 applications of people wanting to work with us. What makes a great business is a great leader. Not so much a great idea to begin with, not so much a perfect business model to begin with, but somebody who has the character and perseverance and fortitude and the ability to take responsibility for everything that happens, good and bad. That's one of the first criteria that I look at before I decide whether or not to work with somebody else. I had on my Instagram a year ago, I put a post on there that had to do with what the millionaires and bad ideas have in common. And the thing is that it's the taking this bad idea, if you will, and nurturing it and growing it into something that's good, and so the perseverance and persistence and that I can win attitude, that's what makes all those things happen. That's what takes that not so great idea and turns it into a great idea. So I look first at the person.
So, all right. So you look at the person first, and that's, I mean, especially for startups, you're going to look at the jockey, right?
Yeah.
So once you've checked the box for that, then what's next? What else matters to you? Is there certain types of business that you stay away from in general? Are there certain business models that you favor over others? What are some of your other criteria?
Once we go through that section, which is the hardest one really, and we're going to actually do a psychological test first. When anybody who applies has to do that first to see what their makeup is, which I didn't even do it in the beginning at all, which was a disaster. But the second thing I look for is the same thing that I look for in the 10 companies that I started on my own. And that is a hole in the market. So I look for a market that's proven itself already, and that there are uh, healthy competition in the marketplace, and the marketplace is growing, and there's a fervent audience of clients slash customers, and there's a gaping hole that needs to be filled because now you've proven out the model. You know there's a demand there already. You know the marketplace is growing. You can see what your competitors are doing. And just by nature of the fact that there's a hole in that market, what I call a hole is really a subset of the demand that is not being served. So I got my clients here, I got the competition proving up my case for me and showing me where that hole is in that opportunity, because all these customers are giving 1-star reviews because they can't get this one thing from the competitors. And if I can build a business around that, I have a really solid chance of succeeding.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point about looking at like where the flaws are, the competitors, where the like the 1-star reviews are, the kind of the complaints are, and then obviously filling that void. Right, that's it's a great way to kind of look at how to build a business. So you mentioned earlier, your first criteria is the leader, right? So talk to us a little bit more about the key traits, the key things that you look for in a leader, why they're important, and maybe how people can build some of these habits or grow themselves in these ways to be a better leader.
Yeah, and I actually start with looking for a good founder and then a leader, and I'll tell you why. Um, a founder and a leader are almost diametric opposites, right? When you're the founder out there, you're the one-man shop, and you're doing everything. You're doing the marketing, the sales. You're answering operational issues. You're trying to go get people on Fiverr to help you a little bit. So you're completely opposite of what a leader needs to be, which is to be able to put people around them that are really experienced, really knowledgeable, and real believers, and let them go do their thing. That's a big, hard transition. So I'm looking for people that really have the capability. Again, I think honesty is one of the big factors, but looked at in a different way. Honesty gives you perseverance because it lets you reflect upon what's happened, and rather than blaming the world, you're saying, all right, well, shit, we did that wrong, or let's try this approach instead of that one, or we're almost there, almost got it. These 3 wheels fell off the car, but 1 wheel stayed on. Let's figure out what we did with that 1 wheel and duplicate it for the other 3 wheels. That type of thinking in a person is what's going to really, more than anything else, determine whether or not the project is going to go forward and has a good chance to be, or at least a chance to be successful. And then that same honest reflection to be able to look at yourself and your own flaws and take ownership. Those are the critical components that make the foundation of somebody who later on can become a great leader, because there are so many, and people listening here or watching on YouTube. I know you can pick at least one person, probably 10, depending on how many jobs you've had, that had blamed you or somebody else for everything and never taken that ownership, never taken that responsibility. And you can see that in somebody right away. You're going to be in a fire. You're going to be in a foxhole. You're going to be fighting the bad guys. You're going to be doing all those things with this person next to you. And you need to be able to figure out right away whether that's somebody you want by your side when things go bad, because they will.
Yeah, I mean, radical personal responsibility is needed if you're going to build a company and an organization at all and lead it too. And I like your distinction between the founder and the leader. I think a lot of great founders realize that, and realize that they need to bring in that leader and, still be involved, but in maybe a different way, to where the leader is helping to really build the organization, the systems and that stuff to really go and get the right people in the right seats and make some of the hard choices that a founder may have trouble making, obviously, because they start out, they bring people in and stuff. And sometimes as you grow, those people can't they're not the right fit to stay on, and somebody's got to make that decision. That's harder for founders, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's a great marriage to do something like that, because the founder can do what they do best. They can be that visionary. They can get out into the marketplace. They can get on stage. They can preach the vision and the future of what this is, and build that buzz while the company is really humming along, doing what it does. So I think that's
Exactly.
I think that's a great distinction in that. What are some of the other important traits or habits that you feel an entrepreneur should have or develop to succeed and stay successful?
I think one of the biggest flaws with especially first-time entrepreneurs that want to start a company. Before I say what the flaw is, let me give you a disturbing fact. The disturbing fact is the number one failure for founder-started businesses is they've created something that there's no demand for. It's not lack of money. Look it up. We have Google for
Yeah.
this. It's not lack of money. It's not the inability to get funding. It's the fact that you've made something there's no demand for, which leads
Mhm.
me to the other thing that I look for in a founder. So many times I've heard one of two things. Either, how can I keep competitors away? Or I created something that has no competition. And both of those things are fallacies. Number one, if you've created something where there's no competition, you've just identified the fact that you've created something that has no demand, because you have to have a demand for a solution in order for your solution to be meaningful. You could argue that the first car didn't have competitors, but they did. The competition was a horse, and because the demand was transportation, right? And so the car was just another form of transportation. So you, as a founder, need to look, what is the demand that I'm serving? And it's not, maybe nobody else has your golden widget, but it's a demand-based part of it that you really need to focus on. And again, the other piece of that is how do I keep the competitors away? You don't. The only way you can keep competition away is by doing that thing I said, creating something that nobody wants, nobody needs. You're not going to grow, so you're not going to have any competitors because nobody wants what you have. So you can't be afraid of competition. You have to welcome it. You have to beat it. And I argue that every day you need to wake up and try to figure out, how can I make myself obsolete? Because
Mhm.
if you're not figuring that out, somebody else is. And that person's not going to be nice to you about that process. If you can figure it out, then you can create better and better products and services, because you're making obsolete what you have today by making something better for tomorrow. So if you're not doing it, somebody who's really mean is doing it in the background.
That's a great point too, that you always should be looking at how you're becoming obsolete and adapting and innovating above that. I actually have always taken that kind of a step further too, even in the business. For you as a founder or CEO, you should be looking to effectively replace yourself, because if you can't and the business is dependent on you, you really just you've kind of created a really nice job for yourself. You haven't really built a business yet, right? The business needs to be able to work with or without you there and continue to grow and scale and everything. And so, your goal should be to replace yourself or make yourself effectively obsolete in the business, in that sense. I know that sounds weird, but maybe you've got some thoughts on that.
Well, I can tell you, there's going to come a time as your company starts growing and becoming successful. There will be a time where you wish you could put somebody else in the driver's seat, because it's a hell of a journey. And as you said, ups and downs, and more downs than ups.
Mm.
There will come a point where you are going to want to step aside and bring in people that can help grow the company at the next level. It's very rare that there's a founder that can really take a company all the way to that multi-billion-dollar status. I mean, even some of the most famous ones that we see now, there are plenty of examples of where the founder has stayed on, like Airbnb and
Mm.
Facebook and companies like that. But there are plenty more examples where that person has gone on to become a chairman or CEO emeritus, or taken a lot of their equity and pulled it out of the organization and become that front person, the spokesperson, the lecturer. And it's because it's a whole different skill set to really grow beyond certain levels. It takes one skill set to get you from 1 million to 25, another one to get you from 25 to 100. And then after you go through those different plateaus beyond that, it's a whole different type of person that can pull it through.
You mentioned that, and I think that's I mean, it's absolutely. We've talked about that a million times on the show. It's absolutely true. Each level is different. Any thoughts on like those skill sets? Just thinking high level. If somebody is at 1 million and wants to go to 10 or 20, what's a couple things that they should be looking for there? And then once they hit 20, 25, go into 100. What are some of those skill sets that you have seen that are really needed at those points?
Well, when you're like 1 to 10 million, you can pretty much be a fairly flat organization, and you can manage it. And you can have 3 or 4 executives around you, and you can manage the whole thing on a pretty flat scale. There's 3 or 4 levels max of folks. And then once you get above that 25 to 100 million range, then you as a founder are going to have to start thinking about a deeper set of organizational, I don't want to call them silos, but a lot of P&L responsibility in the different sections of your organization that doesn't really exist at a very meaningful level as your company's smaller. So the more you grow, the more autonomy you're going to have to give to the different sections of your organization. And when you do that, then the people that you're putting in those executive vice president roles, they have to be natural leaders themselves, because they literally are going to start running a piece of that organization separately. You're the one that has to take all the glue and put all the pieces together, but you really need to surround yourself with people who are very capable, very experienced, and you need to be able to let go more and more and focus on the very, very high level and let these different elements of your organization prod deeper and deeper into that piece of your organizational pie.
Yeah, I remember, when we were, growing one of our businesses, and it was a very fast growing business. We had this, for a while, we had this strict policy of like, no like bureaucracy. You're right. Like no meetings to have meetings. Right. It was like, we were very flat. We were, everybody was doing what they did, making it go. But yeah, we hit that point where we basically had to, slow everything down, put the structure in place, start a meeting cadence, make sure that their reporting up the chain was all good, started to put some levels in. And it's one of those things that I think is a rite of passage for a business to go through if you're there, right? It's one of those things that you just, initially you don't want to do it, but after you do it, you're very grateful that you did it. And there's a lot of different structures out. Like at the time, I've used it in other businesses. Like EOS is a great kind of model for how to put a structure into place. I think it gives a good base, right? It's not everything you have to innovate on it, but there's different models like that I think that are good. Is there anything that you've seen kind of like that out there, like a model for building that structure in a business that you feel is a good one to use?
There's hundreds of them, and I don't think I'm in a position to recommend any particular one. But the good news is they're all over the place, and you can find the one that suits you the best. But I think the biggest thing is to understand the way you're running your company now. If you start getting really successful, is not going to be the way that you can run it in the future. It's just, you have to accept that, embrace that the same way you embrace failure, that it's just a part of the whole process of reaching that goal, which, by the way, people ask, what does it take to be successful? You never get there, really, no matter where you get. And that's why you see so many billionaires that are still working. They're never going to retire. Mm-hmm. They're not doing it for the money. At that point, they're doing it for that entrepreneurial journey, and that journey
Yeah.
never ends.
Success is a never ending journey, right? You're always striving for, that next level and pushing the limits of what you're possible, at least as entrepreneurs, right? And that's why you said, billionaires, keep going. They keep looking for the new frontier, if you will. And that's the pursuit. It's the, at that point, it's a lot of fun because it's not about the money anymore. At that point, it's just, where can we take things? What, can we go to Mars, as, like Elon Musk is trying to do? So
Yeah.
I think, I guess there's a lot of people that are sitting out there, and they're sitting there and they have ideas, right? Because everything starts with an idea. I've always said it's 5% idea, 95% execution in the end. But everybody's got ideas, and they may be wanting to take that entrepreneurial leap. And so, how does somebody take their idea and turn it into a business?
Well, it's one thing we'll talk about at the end of the show, because I do have a
That's
free
all right.
offer
Yeah.
if I could talk about it now. The way to do that is basically to take a course that I have on purpose-driven entrepreneurship that normally costs $500, and because of you, Dave, it's going to be free for your listeners. It's
awesome.
fred.ideapros.com/course. And if you go in there and on your code, you put go big, GOBIG, go big as your code, you get 100% off, and it's free. Okay. So it's, again, fred.ideapros.com/course, go big, and get it free. It's 15 modules.
And we'll link to that in the show notes so everybody can find it too. So Thank you for that. That's awesome. Go ahead.
So understanding that literally whatever it is that you want to build, taking your idea into something that can be a business has two key elements to it. One is very structured, and the other one is very artistic. And the structured elements of it is there are building blocks. You start with idea validation. Then you start with understanding that marketplace, the research of your market, of your competitors, of the growth, of the opportunity, of your customers, your potential customers, what makes them tick, how you're going to turn them into the passionate advocates of your brand. And then you go from those elements to thinking about your naming, your branding, how you're going to position yourself different. How are you going to be the Apple to the IBM? Are you going to be the Virgin to British Air? How are you going to stand out from that crowd? And then you go through the whole development process, and then you figure out your launch strategy. What am I going to do? How am I going to position myself? Who are my customers? How am I going to reach them? Where am I going to get the capital to pull this off? And then you launch. So it's very, very process driven. And if you skip beats, which everybody does, then you're not going to win. There's so many people online right now while we're talking that are typing into their Google search, how can I get my idea patented? Which is a big mistake. Yeah, look, if you have a great idea and you go through all the rest of the process, and there's a time when you're in engineering and talking to manufacturers, you can start thinking about a patent. But people do that right in the very beginning. They don't know there's a demand. They don't know what materials it should be. They don't know what it's going to cost to manufacture it. They don't know whether it can even be manufactured, because there's a lot of patents that can't be manufactured, and they get thrown out, by the way, later on. And nor can it be built at a price point that anybody wants. And finally, whether or not anybody even wants it. And they're out there typing right now, where can I go spend $20,000 to get my idea patented? And frankly, 97% of all granted patents in the United States never get built. 97%. And that's the ultimate goal. So you have to understand the process. You take your idea, flesh it out, and understand your market, understand how to differentiate yourself, understand your customers, and understand how to turn them into your passionate advocates of your brand. That's how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that obviously goes into it, and that guide should be awesome for listeners and those watching to pick up and help them, on that journey. Because the thing is that whatever you're trying to do in a business, it's probably been done before. So, there's a playbook out there somewhere. There's a structure out there somewhere. So if you're willing to look for it, you can find it. You don't have to necessarily start from anew, right? It's you can copy and innovate. I think that's one of the nice things that's available to us in today's world is that all these things that have been done, you can find them, you can read how it's been done, you can learn how it's been done, watch a video, get a free course, do something like that, and it can make such a huge difference for you. So don't think that you have to invent the wheel. It's rare that that's happening these days. I guess an offshoot from that too, this is, you've probably mentioned some of this stuff as we've gone already, but if you had to say like the one most common critical mistakes that you see entrepreneurs make when they start or in building their business, what are they?
You're building something for yourself instead of for the customer. That's the biggest mistake. I love it, therefore everybody else will love it. My mom thinks it's great. My friends at the bar can't wait for me to start, and all that stuff becomes your validation, and that's a critical mistake. The one thing you really need to learn as an entrepreneur, as a founder, is that you're dumb, and because you will buy whatever you build. In fact, you don't have to buy it. If you built it, you can have it for free. But you're not selling to you. And you need to let your ego go, and you need to put your exploratory hat on, and look and figure out who's going to want this, what are they going to pay for, and how am I going to reach them? And that's the biggest mistake we make. We don't think about that. We think about the fact that we love it, therefore it's going to do great.
You always say this, always remember, nothing happens till something gets sold. So, you focus on getting that, first sale, not perfection of the product, none of that type of stuff. You need to determine if there is a customer that will buy it, that is not your friend or your family or anything like that, and so to prove that there is a market and a demand and need for your product. So, and a want, if you will, too.
Yeah.
We're getting close to the end of our time, so I want to kind of go rapid fire. So what I want to do is just I'm going to give you a topic. And so 1 to 2 best practices that come to mind by each topic. Okay. So first one, branding and marketing.
Yeah. Branding, don't do it yourself. Because that's the one area that I don't let consumers decide the name, the positioning, any of that. And I don't think founders should do it either. So be innovative in your naming process. Don't be intuitive, be innovative so that people need to think. I gave the example of Virgin before, right? You could have 10,000 consumers in a room and have some guy with a British accent come out and say, I want to name my airline Virgin, and everybody would boo him off the stage. There'd not be one person that would think it's great. So naming, understand that that's going to be your essence. And also look at some of the biggest brands in the world, cover up their name, and you can see from their packaging, from their website, from everything they do, who it is with their name covered up. So the whole branding part of it is a lot more than just a name. It's the essence of your organization. So do that well, use experts. Marketing, marketing shines when it resonates with your consumer. Look at Coca-Cola, look at Nike. Coca-Cola doesn't sell drinks. They sell fun, friendship. Nike doesn't sell running shoes. They sell doing the best you can, achieving goals that you didn't think were possible. So deliver a message that's powerful, impactful, and memorable, not we make the best running shoe there is.
Sales.
You can't sell. You can let people know why they need to buy. The best sales take place in the mind of your buyer. And you just lay out the journey for them. Consultative selling, obviously this doesn't necessarily apply, although there's the one thing, I don't know if it was Wolf of Wall Street or what, where they're sell me the pen thing, where even at that level, you need to understand the need. You can't sell a pen to somebody who doesn't want a pen. But when you listen and you figure out, yeah, you know what? I am looking for a gold pen, and I do really want it to write well, and I would love to have one in blue ink. And oh my God, I just happen to have that for you at a price point you agreed you'd pay. Even at that level, let the buyer become their own salesperson. That's the biggest thing. Number two thing is there's a 30% attrition rate in many sales departments. And so as an owner, an operator, a vice president of a sales organization, your sales force collecting data points from your clients. And it's not just, this is Joe Smith, and this is his address, and this is his contact number, and this is his position in the organization. They're collecting that Joe has two daughters, and one of them's getting ready to go to college, and that Joe's wife loves travel in the summer in Italy or France. They're collecting all these data points that they're going to be lost with your 30% attrition when people leave. So make sure when you're leading a sales organization that, number one, your sales force is taking down a lot of personal information about the people that they're working with over and over again. And number two, that information is kept somewhere so that you as an organization, when the new salesperson comes on, then he can say, hey, Sam, my predecessor was talking to me about how much your wife loves to go to Italy. And did you guys happen to go this year? You're building a personal relationship. John Rockefeller, and you guys can go look it up on Google. Look at John Rockefeller and his use of notebooks. He had reams and reams of notebooks of literally everybody he met that he thought he could possibly have a business relationship with. And he attributes it to one of the biggest factors that made him a billionaire, because he would do that. What we can do really easily online, he would take his notebook out and he would write about that same Joe, and his wife loves to go to Italy, and his two daughters, one's getting ready to go to Brown University. And next time they met that person 6 months later, he would prep himself and say, hey, did your wife go to Italy this past summer? And how's your daughter Sue doing at Brown? Did she end up going? You're building personal relationships. So those are the two things. Let the buyer sell themselves and build relationships. So you're building a friendship, not just an opportunistic engagement.
Love it. That's a really, really excellent call out on the sales side. All right. So next one, operations.
Be brutal with operations. That's the biggest one. That's where fluff can kill you. And if you're the head of operations, you need to make sure that you're a well-oiled machine, that you're operating to the maximum degree you can without having excess anywhere. That's the one thing on operations. The other thing for me, the other big thing on operations is really have systems in place. If you have process, if you have certain ways of getting things done, and you can sleep at night knowing that if somebody's going through a certain channel of your organization, that they're following the steps and the processes that you put in place to make sure that that's a smooth ride and nothing gets left over the side. Nothing falls off the assembly line.
Last one from Rapid Fire. Building a good team.
So building a good team, I think, really starts with company culture. And the problem, well, obviously, first, pick the right people. Don't necessarily pick your friends just because they're willing to work with you, although in the very beginning, maybe the only people willing to work with you because you can't afford to pay for them. But pick wisely. Don't just go on the basis of a resume. Sit down with them. How do you interact with them? Do they have the same core values that you do? Because you can take a very, very competent, very skilled person and have them come into a wrong type of organization, and you have disastrous results. That's the first one. And then the culture. You build good teams through corporate culture, and you don't build corporate culture like everybody does. They sit around in a executive suite in a boardroom and come up and decide through all these white papers and outside analysts that tell you what your company culture should be. Your company culture starts at the bottom. You figure out what you want to be, and then make sure that you make all your employees resonate with that message. Otherwise, it's just like cardboard. It's nothing that's going to be long lasting. They're parroting what you tell them your company culture is. But if your company culture is one of inclusion and entrepreneurship and making sure that things and people grow, like my company is, right? You start at the bottom. We have meetings with your employees. Joe, I know you just signed up here 6 months ago, and chances are you're 23 years old. You probably have dreams and passions that may not include being with this company for forever or for even a long time. What are your goals? What are your dreams? How can we help enable them? How can we enable you like we try to enable our clients and our customers? And so now your corporate culture of inclusion, if that's what it is, becomes a reality because this guy is experiencing it who's only been working there for a few months, and you're building that solid foundation of culture that starts at the bottom and permeates up to the top.
Yeah, I love that. That's any leader, if you're not taking the time to really understand that with people, you're missing out. I think people support what they help to create. So if
Yeah.
you make them a part of it and you give them that chance, they're that much better for the organization. If you understand their goals, their dreams, where they're going, and can show them and help them get there as part of that too, what a great culture if you can do that, right? So,
Yeah.
love that. I guess my last question for you is, what is something that you personally wish you knew sooner as an entrepreneur?
I could be really crass here and say not to be an entrepreneur, but the one thing I wish I knew sooner is really how hard it is, and that there are no goalposts. There is no end zone. It's a continual process, and as again, third time, as you pointed out, more lows than highs. You're never going to get to the point where you just wake up and, oh, I'm successful, I don't have to do anything anymore. You're going to wake up and go, oh, I'm successful, I have to work harder than I ever have in my life now to try to maintain some momentum. So the one thing, well, two things, if I can give you a second. The first thing is that not knowing how hard, how grueling, how much perseverance and persistence you had to have. And the other thing would be not to believe everybody. Like when I was in my 20s, when I first started my first company, I'd take a meeting to try to get an investor. And if somebody said, let's have a second meeting, I'd go out and pop the champagne right away, thinking that, oh, this is going to be great, and just understand that there's nobody else that really wants you to make it. Nobody, other than your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, your boyfriend. Nobody really wants you to make it. Even your friends, a lot of times, don't want you to make it because you're going to elevate yourself in their mind beyond the level that you're all working equally in now. So understand it's a lonely journey. Don't think that anybody owes you anything, and don't think that just because you had a good meeting, it's going to turn into $1 billion business.
Okay, it's time for Fred's Misfit 3. These are the 3 things that he wants you to take that you could put in your life, your business, make a difference for yourself starting today. And the way that I always frame this to every guest that comes on the show is I say, hey, look, if you were going to leave this earth tomorrow and you could only leave behind your 3 best pieces of wisdom to the generations that come after you to help them live their best life, what would those 3 things be? So, Fred, what are your Misfit 3?
So it's a POP, right? So for me, mine is you died today. And everything you have coming up after today is all the things that you wish you had more time to do, but didn't get that time. If you can look at your life as something that is extraordinary, that you have a 1 in 10 trillion chance of even being born, so take advantage of that, and you'll start seeing that even some of the most mundane things, like going to the grocery store, getting in the car, going on a little ride, dealing with your wife or husband, or helping kids with their homework when you feel like watching a football game. All these things. Think about you never having that opportunity again in your life. And now you've been granted that opportunity. So the biggest thing I think for all of us, regardless of whether it's business or personal life, uh, value what you have and understand how extraordinary it is that you're able to even go to the refrigerator and get a glass of milk out. I mean, these are the more you can appreciate what you have, the more you're going to be likely to get to where you want to go. Be happy where you are, and therefore getting to where you want to go is extraordinary. That's definitely the one thing that I would do. The second thing that I would kind of impart backward that I can leave behind is that embrace failure. Understand that it's not that the world's against you. It's that this is the world. And even in Buddhism, they talk about suffering being the natural part of life. It is. It sucks being a human. If you look at all the other animals in the world, they got their shit together. They go out, they wake up, they eat, they drink, they go to sleep, they procreate, and they fight when they have to defend themselves. That's it. The rest of us, we question ourselves every day. Am I good enough? Am I strong enough? Am I fast enough? Am I smart enough? Can I start this business? Am I going to fail? We bombard ourselves with these questions and doubts every single day. Accept the fact that you're flawed. Humans are the most flawed animals on the face of the earth. And now that we understand aliens are coming, we're probably the most flawed, even including them. So embrace that flaws, embrace the fact that every single journey involves many, many mistakes, many failures. Even Dyson, for God's sakes, made 5,600 prototypes before he got his vacuum right. So how stupid are we? So embrace that and accept that. And the third thing I would say is, I think this is really important, and I have two girls that I raised alone, and those are my two proudest moments. Besides the 10 companies I raised, the two girls are a lot more proud. Don't have to win arguments to win battles. And we are constantly wanting to prove that we're right. This happens at home. This happens in the office. Sometimes you win a battle by dropping a subject, or by agreeing, or by taking a higher road. And I had a recent circumstance I'm not going to talk about with my family, and the advice I gave was don't prove you're right. Proving you're right doesn't make everybody else in the room happier and think you're smarter, and you get resented. And so pick your battles, take the higher road, and always try to find resolutions. Sometimes people will say things to you in a way that aren't the best, but what they're trying to get across is something that really affects them in a negative way. And you need to be able to hear that language, translate it into something positive, and feed it back to them in a better way. You know what? Maybe it kind of hurt me a little bit the way you said this, but you're spot on. And what you said is really important. And these are the three things I'm going to do to make those changes. So this is what we're going to do in our company to get to that next level.
Fred, that's an excellent Misfit 3. All of those are really timeless principles. So thank you for sharing that. If people do want to learn more about you, where should they go?
Well, if they want to learn more about me, then they should go to Instagram. I have over 500,000 followers on Instagram at official Fred Cary, Cary. I talk about this kind of stuff every single day. I post once a day now. I do it all on my own, no marketing team or anything. I get up, I record a video, just do some editing and post it. And it's about life. It's about entrepreneurship, personal development, trying to do the right thing. So official Fred Cary, you can go on there. Other than that, I think another good thing for any entrepreneur or somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur, just go to ideapros.com. The very first thing you'll see is a free membership. And if you sign up as a member, the first thing you'll get is 7 days worth of emails that'll tell you 7 principles to be able to grow a business successfully. And then after that, once a week, you'll get a newsletter, and a couple times a month, like even tomorrow, I think we have one, you're going to get a different free 2-hour workshop that I go really in depth on different things. The one tomorrow that won't be tomorrow when the listeners hear this, but it's about how to really pitch well and go out and get capital for your organization. But it's a different subject, and it's always free. So ideapros.com or official Fred Cary. Those are the 2 ways to really get to me.
Fred, that's excellent. We'll link to all that in the show notes, the best show notes in the business for reasons I will talk about more in a second. But first, for those of you that are new with us, new to the Misfit Entrepreneur, welcome. It is an honor to have you with us. And I hope you become a regular subscriber, listener. And for all of you that are with us week in and week out, I cannot thank you enough for your support of the show. You are what makes this go in over 100 countries every single week. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And go out and check out the show notes for this episode. They are the best in the business. Why? Because I do them myself. Actually, as part of my personal growth routine on a weekly basis, I go back through these episodes with great guests like Fred, and I take my best pieces of wisdom and tips and highlights that I think are important, and then I share those with you. So go check those out. And then go ahead and give this episode a rating and review, like and comment on it. Help share Fred's message, because we all know, and I say this in every episode, one great episode can change someone's life. Maybe something that Fred shared today was that missing link you were looking for to get to your next level. So share this with others. And again, Fred, thank you so much for coming on, sharing all your wisdom and insight today.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.